I was standing in the orchard that morning pruning back the peach trees when I spotted something out of place. A letter sticking out of the rusted mailbox at the edge of the gravel drive. You know the kind. Thick white stock with an embossed return address. I felt a familiar knot in my stomach, the kind you get when you know something's coming that you won't like. Red Timber Creek Homeowners Association. Now I had to stop for a second. You're probably wondering why on earth I, a guy who lives on 150 acres of private farmland, would get a letter from an HOA. The nearest subdivision is half a mile away, and this land's been in my family for decades. My grandfather laid out the property lines, locked them into county survey maps before I was born. I've never even seen the HOA, let alone had anything to do with it. But still, my gut sank as I ripped open the envelope. The letter was as cold as you'd expect, formal typed and dismissive. Dear Mr. Randall McCormick, our records indicate that your agricultural operations may be in violation of Red Timber Creek HOA Article 12, concerning unauthorized commercial activity conducted within the extended perimeter of HOA managed lands. The rest of it rambled on, but what really got me was the part at the bottom. To remedy the situation, the Board of Directors requires the retroactive payment of 50% of net profits generated from agricultural activity for the last fiscal year, along with immediate compliance with HOA landscaping and infrastructure regulations. I had to read that a few times just to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. This couldn't be real, right? I spent the next 2 hours digging through records, survey maps, and county registries, going through every old document I could find. There had been no changes, no new boundaries, nothing. This land was mine, and it had always been mine. No HOA, no new regulations. So I sat down, drafted a response. Polite but firm. I attached copies of county records, GPS survey data, and a highlighted map showing that the HOA boundary ended a solid 300 yards from my southern hayfield. Sent it off via certified mail, thinking that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, I was in the chicken run fixing a busted water line when I heard tires crunching up the gravel. A gray Mercedes rolled up and out popped a woman in a blood-red blazer. Karen Godfrey, president of Red Timber Creek HOA. I didn't need to ask what she wanted. She had the same clipboard and camera combo that always signals trouble. Mr. Randall McCormick, she asked, like she didn't already know my name. Already see it stenciled on the mailbox at the end of the drive. That's me, I replied, wiping my hands on a rag. She smiled, but it wasn't a smile you'd want to see coming your way. We've reviewed your letter, and I'm afraid you're misinformed. Misinformed? I raised an eyebrow. She went on to explain that the HOA had approved a perimeter expansion last quarter, and now my land was within the extended maintenance and management boundary. They'd posted the revision on the community board. I wasn't part of that community. The audacity of it. You're trying to tell me that you people just annexed my farm? I asked, struggling to keep the disbelief out of my voice. It's not annexation, she said, it's integration. She went on about how my commercial land use now fell under their jurisdiction and required compliance with their rules. I looked at her like she was crazy. You can take your integration and stuff it right back in that SUV, I said, my voice steady. My land is not part of your little utopia. They left without a word, but I wasn't done. I kept a file now. Karen Godfrey, HOA Threat Evidence Log Number 1. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew I needed to be ready. 3 days after that, I got a call from Joe Richards, a retired surveyor who knew every inch of Dry Hills like the back of his hand. He asked if I could meet him at the southern line. He didn't trust the HOA's boundary extension, and after walking the property for a few hours, I knew he was right. There just inside my fence was a freshly hammered survey stake with a plastic flag marked RTC-E Red Timber Creek boundary. It was inside my deed boundary by 15 yards. Joe didn't mince words. This ain't no measurement error. This is deliberate. That night I visited the Payne County zoning office. I asked to see any filings related to Red Timber Creek in the last 60 days. There it was, a revised HOA territory map, slick and glossy, showing Dry Hills Estate under something called rural inclusion for community expansion. The twist. It wasn't filed under the HOA's name. It was filed by a mysterious entity, Red Timber Holdings LLC. Never heard of it. But when I looked closer, I recognized the signatures. 2 county employees whose pen strokes were off. The signatures were lifted from a 2019 tax document and badly forged. It was clear as day. This wasn't just an error, it was a well-executed fraud. I called in a favor from an old contact at the Oklahoma Tax Commission. The results were shocking. The signatures were traced and forged. So I built my evidence log complete with photos of the fake survey stakes scans of the forged document and a summary report. I took it to my attorney Ellis Warren and he confirmed what I already knew. This was organized. Someone was trying to steal my land. We filed a complaint with the county prosecutor, but Karen wasn't backing down. She sent me another letter, a formal notice claiming I owed $163,000 for the community benefits I had been avoiding. I wasn't scared. I was pissed. This wasn't just a property fight now. It was personal. The day I received a civil lawsuit in the mail, asking for 50% of my farm revenue plus dues plus control over my well, that's when I knew I wasn't just fighting an HOA, I was fighting a criminal conspiracy. Ellis and I filed counterclaims, and in 2 weeks the court date came. Karen and her lawyers opened strong with a dramatic speech about community alignment, and I sat there stone-faced. When it was my turn, I brought the receipts, 120 pages of evidence maps, photos, a notarized affidavit from the county zoning office confirming that Karen's land claims were bogus. I even had security footage showing Karen trespassing on my land. That's when the judge did something none of us expected. Instead of ruling on the case, he called in a representative from the district attorney's office. He referred the case for criminal investigation under forgery, conspiracy to defraud, and criminal trespass. The case was no longer civil. It was criminal. Karen didn't back down, though. She kept fighting. One night I found a dead jackrabbit nailed to my gate with a message, "Farmers don't win." It was a threat. The intimidation escalated, but it didn't stop me. I hired a private security detail, and soon after I got the break I needed. One of the trespassers, a man who had planted fake assessment forms on my desk, left behind a black briefcase. Inside it was more evidence, pre-filled notice forms, forged late fees, and payment demands. It was planted to make it look like I was in the wrong, but he made one mistake. He left his fingerprints behind. When the feds traced those prints, they led to a convicted forger named Gregory Ronson, someone Karen had bailed out before. That was the last nail in the coffin. The FBI moved in quickly. They raided Karen's office, and within days the entire operation collapsed. Karen, along with 8 of her accomplices, were charged with federal crimes, including conspiracy, money laundering, and forgery. Karen was hit with 13 counts, including racketeering under the RICO Act. And it didn't end there. The story went viral, and soon former HOA victims were coming forward using my case as leverage to file lawsuits of their own. In the end, the HOA was dissolved. Karen and her board members were all arrested, and my farm was finally free. What happened here isn't just a victory for me. It's a reminder that if you fight long enough and smart enough, you can take down even the most powerful enemies. Sometimes all it takes is standing your ground and knowing your rights. Because this land, it has roots. And so do I.